You are watching Shadowen, where the stories are real, and the fear is too. Alright, so tonight we're diving deep into stories about places where, someone didn't just move out. Someone left. Permanently. The first entry, the stain on the ceiling. It gets under your skin, man. So I got this apartment, right? My first place by myself. Studio, kinda small, but hey, it was cheap. And it was in the city, literally like 2 blocks from the good coffee place. And the landlord, this old dude, Mr. Henderson, he was all smiles when I signed the lease, but he had this kinda shifty eye, Like he knew something he wasn't telling. But I was just stoked to finally have my own space, stop crashing on my buddy's couch, whatever. The place had kinda beige walls, like hospital beige, and smelled a little like old cigarettes and lemons, but I figured I could air it out. Anyway, after about a week, I started noticing this thing on the ceiling, right above where my bed ended up. It wasn't huge, maybe like the size of a dinner plate, but it was dark, kind of brownish, reddish, like old rust mixed with, dried coffee. At first, I thought it was just water damage from the unit above. Happens, right? Old buildings. I called Mr. Henderson, left him a message. He didn't call back for like 3 days. When he finally did, he was super vague. Oh, that old thing? Probably just a leak. Yeah, we'll look into it. Eventually. He just sounded off. Like he was brushing me off. But the stain started bothering me. It was weird. It wasn't getting bigger, but it felt deeper. Like the color was soaking into my brain. And sometimes, late at night, when everything was quiet, I'd hear this really faint dripping sound. Drip. 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 But it wasn't steady. It was irregular. Like water hitting something soft. And when I'd get up to check, the floor was always dry. Nothing. I'd stand there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and it felt like the stain was staring back. Like it had eyes. Which is, crazy, obviously. But that's how it felt. Then the smell started. It was subtle at first. Kinda sweet, but not good sweet. Like fruit that's gone bad, really bad, and then covered up with air freshener that's also going bad. It was strongest right under the stain. I tried Febreze, tried candles, literally emptied like 3 cans of Lysol in that tiny studio. Nothing worked. It was like the smell was coming from inside the walls, or from above the ceiling. My upstairs neighbor, I never actually saw him, just heard him. He played the same freaking jazz music, like all day, every day. Super loud, then super quiet, then super loud again. And sometimes I'd hear this thumping, like something heavy hitting the floor, then being dragged. Sounded like furniture, maybe? I don't know. It was usually around like 3 in the morning. I almost called the cops once, but I didn't want to be that neighbor, The new guy complaining. One day, I was grabbing a coffee, and I saw a different neighbor, this older lady, Miss Rodriguez, who lived down the hall. She was kinda nosy, but sweet. I asked her about Mr. Henderson and the leak. She got real quiet. She kinda looked around like someone was listening. Then she leaned in close, practically whispering, "Honey, don't worry about the leak. You worry about what caused it." And then she walked away real fast. Wouldn't look at me again. That freaked me out. So I started doing my own research. I looked up the building permits, the news archives for the address, and that's when I found it.
About 8 months before I moved in, the guy in the unit above mine, he died. Alone, in his apartment. They didn't find him for like weeks. Said it was natural causes, heart attack. But they said the decomposition was extensive. And the fluids, they'd apparently seeped through the floorboards. I mean, I literally threw up in my sink when I read that. The stain, the smell, the dripping. It wasn't water. It wasn't old coffee. It was him. Everything clicked into place. The thumping was probably them taking him out, or I don't know. The jazz music, was it still playing? Or was it just an echo? I went back to my apartment, and I just sat there, staring at that ceiling. The beige walls suddenly looked even more like a hospital. And that smell. It wasn't just bad fruit anymore. It was human. I packed a bag, just grabbed my wallet, my laptop, a change of clothes. I haven't been back since. I'm still paying rent on that apartment because I'm too scared to go back and move my stuff out. Every night, I sleep at my buddy's place, or sometimes I just drive around until sunrise. I can still see that stain, like it's burned into my retinas. And sometimes, I swear, I can still smell it. Okay, that was pretty messed up. Like, seriously. Thinking about that apartment building? Man. All right, moving on to the attic door. This next one takes us to a house with an unsettling past. My wife, Sarah, and we bought this old 2-story out in Ohio, kind of near a cornfield that stretched for miles. It was a steal, like way under market value. We thought we were just lucky. The previous owner, a super sweet old lady named Martha, she just wanted to downsize, get rid of the big house. Said it was too much for her now. She didn't really say why she was selling it so cheap, just kind of mumbled about memories. I should have paid more attention to that, man. The house was solid, good bones, as they say, but it had this vibe, like an old house vibe, kind of dusty even after we cleaned it, and it had an attic. The door to the attic was in the master bedroom closet, a pull-down ladder thing. It was always a little bit ajar, no matter how many times I pushed it closed. Just a tiny crack, like it wasn't sealing right. And you could feel a cold draft coming from it, even in summer. We started hearing noises pretty quick. Footsteps, like light shuffling, above us, usually when we were in bed. Sarah would wake me up, elbow me. "Did you hear that?" And I'd be like, "Probably just the house settling, babe. Old wood." But it wasn't always settling. Sometimes it sounded like someone was really slowly, carefully, dragging something across the floorboards up there. Like a burlap sack full of potatoes or something. Just scrape, scrape, scrape. And sometimes, the draft from the attic door would get really cold, even in summer. Like Arctic cold.
Help me.
One night, Sarah was out late with friends, and I was just chilling, watching some dumb reality show. The footsteps started up again. This time they felt deliberate. Like someone was walking from one side of the attic to the other, then back. Slowly. Methodically. I got this really bad feeling. My stomach dropped. I went into the closet, looked up at that slightly ajar door. I could see a sliver of darkness through the crack. And I swear, I could feel a presence. Not a whoosh or a boo presence, but like a heavy, suffocating weight. Like someone was just standing there, on the other side of that door, staring down at me. I decided, screw it. I was going to go up there. I grabbed the little pull string, tugged it down. The ladder creaked down slowly. Dust flew everywhere. I got my phone, turned on the flashlight, and started climbing. It was dark, man. Super dark. And cold. Colder than any attic should be in August. The air was thick with the smell of old wood and something else. Something faintly sweet and sickly. Up top, it was just a big open space. Rafters, insulation, some old boxes covered in sheets. Typical attic stuff. But in the middle of the floor, there was this old trunk. Like a really old wooden trunk, almost black with age. And next to it, an old record player. A really antique one. And on the record player, there was a record. A classical music one. It was all warped, kind of scratched up. I walked over to the trunk, felt this insane urge to open it, but something in my gut was just screaming, no. I shined my light around, and then I saw it. On the floorboards, next to the trunk, a faint outline, like where something had been laying for a very, very long time. And the wood there was darker, stained. And I realized that smell. It wasn't just old house. It was decay. I scrambled back down the ladder, heart pounding like a drum. I pushed the door shut, tried to latch it, but it wouldn't. Just stayed that tiny bit ajar. I called Sarah, told her I didn't feel good. She needed to come home. When she got back, she found me sitting on the living room floor, staring at the ceiling, shaking. I told her what I saw, what I felt. She got scared too. Later, we started talking to the neighbors, real casually. They were nice folks, but they got weird when we asked about the house. Finally, this one old-timer, Mr. Albright, he sighed and said, that old place. Tragic business, that. Poor young lady. Went missing for weeks back in '88. They eventually found her up in the attic. Said her husband did it. Put her in a trunk, they think. Then moved it, put her under the floorboards somewhere. Before they found her, the neighbors said they could hear her music playing sometimes, and something dragging, even after he was gone. My blood ran cold. The trunk, the record player, the stain, the dragging sound, the music. It was all there. We sold that house 6 months later. Took a loss, didn't care. We didn't even go back up into the attic to get our stuff. Just left it. I still have nightmares about that door, just slightly open, and that cold draft. It's like a piece of me got left up there. With her. Man, every time I hear about old houses, I just think about what's really in the walls, you know? Ugh. Okay, deep breath. Next up, we've got Motel Room 13B. This one's a classic road trip gone wrong. I was driving cross-country, moving from, Arizona to Michigan for a new job. Super long haul, 3 days of just asphalt and truck stops. By day 2, I was beyond tired. My eyes felt like sandpaper, and my back was killing me. I just needed a bed, any bed. And this cheap motel, the Desert Oasis Inn, looked good enough. It was one of those places where the neon sign was half broken, like the Oasis part blinked on and off. Real classy. The guy at the front desk looked like he hadn't slept in a week, probably smoked like a chimney, and he had this weird twitch in his eye. He gave me the key to room 13B. 13. Great. Whatever, I just wanted to crash. The room itself was vintage, like 1970s vintage. Orange shag carpet that was probably brown now. A bedspread that felt suspiciously damp. And the air conditioning made this rattling sound that made it impossible to really hear anything else. There was also this weird, faint smell, like old flowers mixed with something metallic. I thought maybe they used some cheap cleaning solution, or someone had just been, really into air fresheners. I threw my bag on the floor, kicked off my shoes. My foot was itching like crazy from the drive. Probably just dry skin, but it wouldn't quit. I went to the bathroom, splashed some water on my face. The mirror was streaky, and there was this weird reddish-brown smear on the side of the sink, like a patch of dried rust. But it wasn't rust. It was kind of sticky. I just wiped it with toilet paper, thinking it was probably some old makeup or something. Gross motel stuff. I tried to sleep,
But the rattling AC and that faint smell, it was really getting to me. I kept tossing and turning. And then I started hearing it. Like muffled talking. Not loud enough to make out words, just this low murmur coming from inside the wall next to the bed. I pounded on the wall once. "Hey, keep it down!" The murmur stopped. Good. I finally started to drift off. But then I heard it again. Not talking this time. More like a really soft scratching, like fingernails on drywall. Scritch, scritch, scritch. And it felt like it was coming from inside my room now. I sat bolt upright. My heart was pounding. I turned on the lamp. Nothing. Just the orange shag carpet and the damp bedspread. The scratching stopped when the light came on. I told myself I was just tired, hallucinating. I got up, went to get a bottle of water from my bag. That's when I saw it. On the bedside table. A little folded piece of paper. It wasn't there before. I picked it up. It was one of those motel notepads, with the logo at the top. And in really shaky handwriting, it just said, "He didn't mean to." My stomach dropped like a stone. He didn't mean to. What? I looked at the bed, then at the wall where the scratching was. And then I noticed something on the headboard. A tiny, dried, dark flake. Like a piece of old blood. Not fresh. Old. Like it had been there for a while. I grabbed my phone, and for some reason, I just Googled the motel name and deaths. And there it was. A local news article from about a year ago. A guy, some traveling salesman, found dead in room 13B. They said it was a suicide. But the police report mentioned signs of struggle and unexplained lacerations. His family was disputing the suicide claim, saying he'd been really happy. They never caught anyone. The article even mentioned a note, something about not meaning to. I literally felt like the air got sucked out of the room. The smell. It wasn't flowers or cheap cleaner anymore. It was old blood. And that reddish-brown smear in the bathroom sink, it wasn't rust. And the scratching. My blood ran cold. I pictured the salesman, struggling, maybe trying to write that note. He didn't mean to. Before whatever happened. I didn't even pack my bag. I just ran. Left everything. Threw the key on the counter at the reception,
The guy barely looked up. Got in my car, drove straight through the night. Didn't stop until I hit a state line. I still sometimes wake up thinking I can hear that rattling AC and that faint scratching. And every time I stay in a motel now, I check the news for that room number. Every single time. All right, that's just a whole new level of why I prefer Airbnb over motels, you know? Just, wow. This next one is called The Well House. This is another one that makes you question what you're really buying when you get a property. So my ex-husband, Mark, and I, we decided to get out of the city, buy a little place with some land out in like rural West Virginia, Appalachia. It was a pretty run-down place, a fixer-upper, but it had charm, you know, and a lot of acreage. The house was old, probably built in the 1920s, and out back, kind of hidden in the overgrown woods, there was this little stone well house. A small shed built over an old hand-dug well. It was kind of neat, rustic. The real estate agent, she was this really cheerful, upbeat lady. When we asked about the well house, she just kind of smiled. "Oh, that's just a cute historical feature. Don't worry, the house has modern plumbing now." She kind of rushed past it, didn't want to linger. We just thought she was trying to keep the sale moving. My stomach was bothering me that day, probably from the gas station coffee I had. Just a dull ache. Anyway, we bought the place. First few weeks were all about clearing out the yard. It was a jungle, literally. We saved the well house for last. It was covered in vines, brambles, like it hadn't been touched in decades. Mark was out there with a machete, clearing it, while I was trying to scrub the yellowish-brown stains off the kitchen walls. They smelled like old cigarettes, even after painting. As he cleared the well house, he found the door. It was made of old, heavy wood, chained shut with a rusty padlock. Inside, it was just a dark hole, a well, and it smelled really bad. Not like sulfur, not like stagnant water, but like something else. Something putrid and sweet at the same time. Like the bottom of a really neglected dumpster. He said it made his eyes water. He tried to shine a flashlight down, but it was too deep, too dark. Just black. We started hearing things after that. Not in the house, but outside. At night. When it was super quiet. No crickets, no wind, just this eerie stillness. We'd hear this really faint scratching sound. Like something trying to claw its way out of somewhere. And a sort of gurgling, wet sound. Like someone was trying to talk, but couldn't. And it always sounded like it was coming from the direction of the well house. Mark thought it was coyotes or raccoons. I didn't. It sounded human. Distressed. One night I was trying to sleep, but the scratching and gurgling just wouldn't stop. I swear I heard a whisper too. Just one word, faint, like it was coming from underwater. Help. Just help. I almost called the sheriff, but what was I going to say? My well is haunted? A few weeks later, we had some locals over, trying to be neighborly, you know? This old guy, Jed, he was looking around the property, sipping his beer, and he kind of squinted at the well house. Well, looky here, the old Henderson well. Thought they filled that in. Mark asked him what he meant. Jed kind of looked at the ground, kicked at a stone. Back in the 40s, old man Henderson, he owned this land. Mean old cuss. Folks said he had a daughter, just disappeared one day.
Play with me.
Never found her. But after that, he started acting even stranger. Wouldn't let anyone near this well. Said she was still down there. He took a long drag from his cigarette. Police looked, but it was just too deep, and he wouldn't let them drain it. My heart hammered in my chest. Still down there. The scratching, the gurgling, the whisper, the smell. It all rushed in. Mark, who was usually pretty skeptical, went pale. We both looked at the well house, then at each other. It wasn't a cute historical feature. It was a grave. And something was still trying to get out. We didn't drain the well. We didn't even open that door again. Mark chained it up tighter, added more locks. Then we hired a crew to just bury it. Like fill it in with concrete. Lots of concrete. We moved out a year later. The quiet was too much. The land itself felt like it was holding a secret. And even though it's buried now, I still have dreams where I'm standing by that well house, and I can hear that whisper. Help. And I wonder if it ever really stopped. That's just absolutely horrifying. The idea of burying a well because of that, I don't know what to say to that. Okay, one more story for tonight. This one's called The Pantry Door. This is a different kind of haunted house. We were so excited, me and my husband Dave, to move into our new house. It was a pretty standard suburban place, 3 bedrooms, nice yard for the kids. Our daughter Lily, she was 5, and our son Ben was 2. They loved exploring. The house was a good deal, too.
A little bit under what we expected. The previous owners moved out real fast, said they were just relocating for work. Seemed like a nice, normal family. One of the quirks of the house was this big pantry in the kitchen. It was like a walk-in pantry, but it had a strange, small, secondary door at the back. Like a little cupboard door, maybe waist-high, hidden behind some shelves. It was painted over, kinda blended in. We thought it was just a weird storage cubby. A little bit of narrative noise, I guess, that door. I kept stubbing my toe on the loose rug in the living room too, which was annoying. Anyway, after we moved in, things started getting weird. Not big, dramatic things at first, just little stuff. Lily's toys, her favorite doll, would sometimes be in the pantry, even though she swore she left them in a room. And the pantry door, the big one, we'd find it ajar, even when we knew we'd closed it tight. It felt colder in the pantry too than the rest of the house, even with the heating on. Like a refrigerator, but without the hum. Then the kids started complaining. Lily would say, "Mommy, the little girl in the pantry keeps touching my doll." Ben, he wasn't really talking in full sentences yet, but he'd point at the pantry, say, "Girl, cold," and he'd shiver. We just thought they had active imaginations, you know? New house, new sounds. We told them there was no little girl, just their minds playing tricks. But one night I was putting away groceries, and I heard a faint giggle from behind those shelves, from behind that little secondary door. A child's giggle. And it wasn't Lily or Ben. They were both asleep. I froze. My heart jumped into my throat. I stood there for a long time, just listening. But it didn't happen again. Just that cold, cold air coming from the back of the pantry. I tried to convince myself it was the old house settling. Maybe a draft.
The next day, I was cleaning, and I decided to tackle the pantry. I pulled out all the shelves, all the cans, all the dusty stuff. And there it was, that little secondary door, just like the kids said. It had a tiny old latch on it, almost rusted shut. And carved into the wood above it, super faint, like someone had scratched it with a nail, were the letters M.L. I felt a sudden dread. I tugged at the latch. It was stubborn, but it finally gave way with a creak. The door opened. It wasn't a cubby. It was a tiny, dark crawl space. And it smelled like dust and something else. Something sweet and sickly, like very old, dried flowers. And it was freezing in there. Absolute zero. I shone my phone light in. It was small, maybe big enough for a child to sit in. And right in the middle, almost hidden by shadows, was a small porcelain doll. Not Lily's doll, an old doll. And next to it, a tiny, faded red ribbon. I felt sick to my stomach. I backed out of the pantry, slammed the door shut, and leaned against the counter, shaking. I had this overwhelming feeling of despair, like someone had been so lonely, so desperate. I immediately called Dave. He came home, and I dragged him to the pantry, showed him the little door, the cold. He looked just as unnerved as I felt. We ended up asking our real estate agent, pressing her. She got real quiet, real uncomfortable. She finally admitted that a child, a little girl named Mary Lou, had gone missing from the house years ago, maybe 30 years back. They searched everywhere, never found a trace. The family eventually moved out, heartbroken. The agent said they thought she'd just wandered off. But then she added, almost a whisper, "Some folks said the parents always seemed to avoid that pantry. Like they knew something, but they never said." Mary Lou. M.L. The cold. The doll. The ribbon. The giggling. My kids weren't imagining it. There was a little girl in the pantry. Still there. We closed off that pantry completely. Put up drywall, built new cabinets, just sealed it off like it never existed. But sometimes, when I'm in the kitchen late at night, I still feel that inexplicable chill. And sometimes, I swear, I hear a faint, sad little giggle. And I wonder if Mary Lou ever stopped touching Lily's doll, or if she's just waiting. Man, that's just heartbreaking and terrifying all at once. What we sometimes uncover, you know? Places that were supposed to be safe. It just makes you think. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to Shadowen tonight. If you want more stories like these, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell.